Hello, and welcome back to a live edition of DP World Tour Picks and Bets. Skylar, Hoke here. Tom Jacobs, my friend. How are you doing?
Good. Joe, I feel like this is what we deserve. Like after just weeks of, I know that sounds really entitled, but after weeks of just horrendous golf, we get and then we enjoy that side of things as well. And it is actually where we find our age and things like that. But it feels like we deserve the opportunity to talk about our favorite golfers in a loaded field and get some value on some of the guys that maybe others don't normally bet on.
Yeah, it's in both sides of the pond. We get to have. I'm excited for the Barbasol. The DraftKings contests aren't all that large in comparison to what they have for the Scottish Open, but really big opportunities for a lot of guys who've been following closely all year. That backs up again at the Barracuda. Next week, I believe some of those guys will get shots in there too. So, just a lot of opportunity to take advantage of, and the prices outside of Ryan Fox all seem relatively worth looking into. So I'm interested to see how the field takes on these prices and these guys that they're not familiar with, and where we can kind of exploit some opportunity.
I like that, and I think it's one of those things. I think is this like the strongest non-major field basically ever, just because they combine both events, both tours.
Yeah, I mean, it looks phenomenal. What field strength, I believe this week is 641. So yeah, I mean, it's massive.
But and that's great for the guys that have made it. There is a kind of thing that you've got these guys that have gone to the Barbasol, and it's a good opportunity for them to get PGA Tour cars, right? Like they can get a 2-year exemption by winning that. So on the flip side to being disappointed missing out on the Scottish Open, they got a chance to go and break through in the PGA, but there'll be some players that are probably more prepared for links golf this week.
Yeah, yep, 100%. Without further ado, don't want to dive in without shouting out Adrian Meronk's performance. Finally for him, it's felt like a ticking time bomb, waiting for that Sunday to finally go through for him. Great golf. I thought Fox had a decent shot there. I mean, Sundays on the DP World Tour they're just insane, man. Like you literally have to sink every putt if you think you have a sniff of being in contention. And that's what he did all weekend. So good for him. Big fan of Meronk.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because they said sort of like how long it's been coming, and you sort of said similar there. I feel like there was a little bit of overdoing on that. Like it's like, oh, he was well overdue. He's had a lot of disappointment, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, well, really, truly, like he's only been at this level for maybe a season and a half. And actually, when you break down how many chances he's actually had, it's not been that many. He's kind of played his way up into in the final days. So he's had maybe 2 or 3 chances where he probably should have won or could have easily won. But this time, it felt like he took it really, really well. There was a point at the start of the back nine where I was like, he's just not going to win. And then all of a sudden, he just puts the foot down and goes. And I think even Fox kind of made the concession that it was kind of going to happen for those guys.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, he came in with 5 top 5s in his previous 7 events. I mean, some of the form these guys are putting together is incredible. I mean, Fox's run deservedly so right there with it. So, but let's take on the Scottish Open here overall. So we look at the field. We look at, first off, how many people from the PGA Tour are playing this. We got, I guess, a snippet of this last year when, we had a decent amount of guys warming up. We've seen this historically grow each and every year, how many guys want to preview the Open Championship. Also, the JP McManus this week probably helped bring some more guys over early as well. But I guess if we look at it overall and outside of Rory, pretty much everybody's here from the top of the world. Is there any standouts that you think can just take on something like this from way up top?
I actually think Jon Rahm's playing that way now again, which is a bit of a concern for the rest of the field. But having said that, he probably doesn't. I don't know, does he meet expectations when he comes over? I guess it's not a European Tour or DP World Tour event anymore, is it? So it doesn't really matter too much. He's not dropping down in class. And I like to kind of be careful when I think about that. Like, oh, this is going to be better for those guys that are dropping down a grade, but they're not anymore. Like, this is actually probably the best field they're going to play all year outside those majors. So Jon Rahm and Xander Schauffele is very obvious. He's got a sneaky good open record, like 5 for 5 made cuts there, which is not easy when you consider what draws he could have been on, the different rotors, only seen the courses once. So yeah, I think Schauffele, especially. I don't know, do we put any stock in that JP McManus thing? I know it's like it's only a bonus, right? Like for good people, but is there any alarm bells for people that struggled? Like Fitz, for example, looked a little bit rusty, like after a busy kind of week after winning the major. Does that worry you at all?
I'm trying not to really overthink it. I mean, we have no idea how guys normally shoot on Monday, Tuesdays leading into a week. So I don't want to really overvalue anything. I do think it's a bonus overall if they played well. Outside of Tiger, who didn't look too pretty, but I just think, yeah, it's just not worth over. It's hysterical. Xander winning another event like that. If it hadn't came after the Travelers, then it would have been a lot funnier for it. But yeah, I guess we didn't really even talk the course. I mean, we're probably as familiar as anybody with the Renaissance Club, seeing it, 3 years running. I think it's almost been different every single time we've seen it, in my opinion. I can vividly remember we weren't doing the show the first time they came around, but that was, in my opinion, that was Herbert week. That was Lucas Herbert when he was storming out through 36 holes and then had a big pullback on Saturday, almost came back on Sunday. Tommy just gave that away. If I recall, it was like a 4-footer in the playoff. He 3-putted, I think, when Rye won, or had at least like an easy chance to extend it and missed. And that was difficult. That was very windy. That was rainy. That was gross. And then it was like we were basically at TPC Deer Run the next year when Burned and Hebert, Benjamin Hebert, went back and forth.
Was it the other way around? I think it was the other way around. I think Wiesberger was 2019 and Rye was 2020.
I thought either way, it was.
But yes,
it was,
but very different events, right? Like, to your point, like Ryan Fleetwood was just a massacre, right? Like it was just, I think that was the week that Fleetwood came off the course and said, like, how could people not love golf? Like I've just done all this in this weather, and I'm still happy, and I get to play for millions and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
So,
and you were right. You were right. That was Burn was before. And I remember that being like a layup week. Like those guys took it deep when people were excited and thought maybe we would get, some links golf before. And it was nothing like that. And that was the time when Burn was just coming back in from, his time off injury. And then last year was a little bit of a mold of the two, I would say. Well, we got it, Min Woo coming out of nowhere on Sunday with Dietrich, and then you get, Fitzy in the mix. It was just kind of a culmination of a good field with our DP World Tour guys playing well. So I think that's on steroids this week. It looks like the wind is in play, but I don't necessarily think there's a specific angle I'm going after from seeing this course play out. I just don't think you can really take full advantage with off the tee. Like strokes gained over the last 3 years, nobody has really excelled off the tee to separate themselves. It's always been the other three legs of the game.
Yeah, I think would that most of the time be the case in links golf? Like, I know this is not, the really linked stuff, but like they're generally quite wide open fairways. Like it's hard to gain an advantage generally accuracy wise anyway. And then the distance kind of gets skewed because of all the bounces, and everyone can kind of be long on any given day. So, iron play is kind of the order of the day. And, last year I think there was some encouragement because like for the DP World Tour regular guys, because, we had John Rahm, we had Justin Thomas, we had Schauffele, Hatton, Fitzpatrick now, like looking back, Sam Burns. We had all these guys in the field and inside the top 20, but amongst those, you had, the Dietrichs, Minwoo Lees, the Lucas Herberts, the Johannes Veerman, Jack Senior, Matthew Pavon, Wade Ormsby, like, Live Golf favorite. So,
Live Golf captain.
Live Golf captain. Sorry, misspoke there. So, I think it's good. I think it's given me a positive reinforcement that you can take some of these DP World Tour regulars on as long as they're in the right form. I think the Irish Open stuff is generally going to be pretty important, not because they're similar tests, but just because of it sort of shows where people are at. And that's kind of played a lot into my thinking. There's one guy that's going to go directly opposite to that, and I'll have my reasons for him. But like generally speaking, I've kind of gone with form over trying to figure anything else out.
Yeah, and I guess the more we speak, and I see some questions already kind of coming in, I think the main interest probably people have after listening to content for the last couple of days, coming to us for maybe some sleepers, some guys down the board that they can round out DraftKings with. So I think the more I'm reading into this, maybe we should just preview early who we're on from the top of the board. And basically once we kind of hit the 7Ks or 50 to 1 plus, then we can kind of narrow in on specific guys or even talk through ones we might not be on. But I think if, just like we do week in and week out, I want to make sure talk through, kind of our selections. And for me, the first one at the top of the board is Cameron Smith. If I think of a PGA Tour player who is built for links golf, who hasn't displayed it as his history, I mean, he's in the best year of his life, that he's played outside of Spieth. I feel like Cam is tailor-made for short game mattering. And like you mentioned earlier, when his worst performances this year all have come on courses that demanded driving, outside of a fall off at the Heritage a week after being in contention at the Masters, it's all been courses where he just couldn't keep up with the driver. And it makes sense why he wasn't able to play well. So, but you take somebody who's probably been a top 3, if not the best player, maybe outside of Scheffler, approach through putting, setting him up in this type of course, I just think it's really good. And the numbers really, really good, man. I think him and the next guy we'll talk about, like, their numbers are lower next week. There's a lot of these guys that their numbers are half, and they'll balloon out. Next week it'll balloon out and probably be similar to what this number is. But I don't even see Cam Smith being much longer than like 33, 35 next week. And that's kind of where you could find him really. He's 30 to 1 of the best spot in the States here, but like that just to me is if I'm imagining myself how this week could play out and the wins are up a little bit, I debated between him and Morikawa quite a bit there because Morikawa's in the exact same boat, but just Cam, man, at this style at that number just seems too good for me.
So I sort of had this discussion with Brad on our podcast, and Brad's been on Cameron Smith basically all year, like for his wins and stuff like that. And it's easy to ring alarm bells when you miss sort of back-to-back cuts, but like you said, Canadian Open and Brookline both needed strong driving. Now, my concern with the fact that he should suit this is, yes, he absolutely should. He's got the perfect game for it. You think about kind of what he does, and Jordan Spieth, similar-esque to his short game and things like that. It works very well on links golf. And just for me, he's never shown it, and that's a little bit of a concern. Like he has made the last 2 cuts in the Open Championship, and it's hard to go just by major championships, but that's all we've really got to go by with Cameron Smith. Like, he hasn't done a ton of it, and you look at like Australians in the past. Like, you think Adam Scott, you think Jason Day, you think I guess Jeff Ogilvy and people like that. Like, they would always be expected to play well in this kind of conditions, and he just hasn't. And that can change. Like, I've had those opinions on people all season, and it's not worked. Like, I kind of tried to take a bit of a stance on Ryan Fox last week because, he's not played well in Ireland, and, his current form, I sort of said, like, to combat that, like, his current form will probably take over. And I think that will happen with Smith. He's had a good couple of weeks off now. It's going to be really interesting. Like, I think if he didn't play well over these next couple of weeks, either side, I would start to question whether he is suitable for links, because if he doesn't do it well this year, when would he?
Yeah, I think that's incredibly fair. Let's talk through our next selection. I think I kind of similar think their games can be this way. I mean, he's a lot better off the tee, but approach and even around the green, he put up Hideki with the best of the worlds, man. And that peak game showed on Sunday, the last time we saw him at the US Open. But talk us through, because I'm with you right on board. I think Hideki's numbers pretty outrageous too, when you're looking at some of these guys shorter than him. So yeah, I'm with you on Hideki, and talk through the why.
I don't think Hideki's numbers been changed or altered since the kind of return to form, and that was quite surprising because he was a guy that was almost a bit of a big number at the start of the year when he was in that kind of good form as well. He always seems to be a little bit inflated. There's been little neck worries and back worries and things like that. But like, those seem to be kind of disappearing. And when I look, like, really like sneaky good on links. I remember seeing him at St Andrews. I remember the phenomenon of all the cameras there. But like, 3 top 18 finishes in the Open. 2 of those have come in Scotland, and there was a 6th in Muirfield and an 18th at St Andrews. He was 10th at the halfway stage, I think, at St Andrews, only 4 shots back. going into the weekend and just kind of fell away. But hot again with his irons, like you said, first and third in recent events, 7th and 3rd in tee to green in those events as well. And like you said, like the short game, like he has what you need. Like you see correlation. I think sort of Pat mentioned it on the show, like between kind of St Andrews and the Masters, and it's not because links is anything to do with Augusta, but just those kind of magic hands around the green and just major pedigree, and Hideki's got all of that. So I just think the number hasn't quite been adjusted to what he's done. My one negative, because I always have to find one because I'm English, but like is it too much done in the last final rounds, final round of the US Open and the final round of Byron Nelson at 62, 65, and that's really changed the dynamic of where he's finished. Is that a sign that he's just a bit of a false dawn, or is it a sign that something's coming and he just needs to be around for 1 week? So I'm willing to take the chance.
Yeah, I mean, we're not far removed from 2 wins and 3 starts. So, and that's where I really like Will, I really like Fitz, I really like a lot of these guys, but you get these numbers on golfers who finish a couple strokes out of having multiple wins too, and it just speaks to, I think, the opportunity with the guys. So I think we tackled the top of the board there. I mean, DraftKings, I guess quick answer. If you had to, okay, so let me pull up salaries here. Okay. I want you, let's play 10,000 above. Okay, so Fitz, JT, Rahm, Scheffler. Cross off your least favorite.
I just think that Fitz could have a tough week. Just all that media attention and just the look ahead for next week. So Fitz will be out for me.
Okay, Fitz is out for me. Gosh, that's a hard question because I think Fitz is the obvious answer, and I think people don't play him because of that. Maybe he got that rust out of the way. I think for me, maybe it's Scotty. If I'm ruling anybody out, but Scotty played well in the Scottish. Dang, I think
he played well, and I think the only thing, I think he could get off to a slow start, and it depends how he recovered. Like I think he done the same last year, opened with a 72, and then I'm pretty sure he shot best round of the day 63 on Friday to make the cut, and I could see that happening again. I think even more so this year because and I never know whether this narrative is true or not, but do you ever think they're trying to find something on links golf the week before and playing those kind of shots and those approach to holes is more important than winning? And, he's got Ted Scott on the bag and he'll enjoy all of that as well. So I just wonder if he'll get off to a little bit of a slow start trying to figure things out. And then when it comes to it, just kind of climb the leaderboard. And whereas I think Rahm and Thomas are more likely to win.
Yeah, and maybe, I mean, there was the video of Scheffler flubbing 3 chips in a row with JP McManus, and maybe it was, obviously they don't really care, but it's also potentially maybe they're trying out different shots that they would have. And again, not putting stock into that type of hit and giggle that's probably exactly the reason why. Okay, let's do the same question in the 9Ks. So Xander, Cantlay, Morikawa, Zalatoris, Burns, Smith, Hideki, cut 2 of them. Least favorites.
I'm going to take Cantlay out. It's just.
I would too. Yep.
I just have a problem with Cantlay. This is tough. I'd probably say Morikawa just because, I guess he's learned from last year, but he was horrendous here, and I still don't think he's quite at his best. I know that there's kind of a lot of faith in him, and I was really concerned about that 77 on Saturday at the US Open. He played badly at Memorial and things like that. So I would reluctantly take him out because it'd be between him and Smith because I quite like Sam Burns sneakily.
See, I would rule out Burns for me. Just not enough. I mean, again, not many of these guys have that similar pedigree that you can find. I mean, they're all
Burns got better every year, every week, every round last year though. The Open was 72, and went 68.
But then he was not good at the Open. Right,
correct.
He made the cut dead last. But it's not the same. It's not the same thing.
I mean, that wasn't even an Open. That was literally dome golf. So
that's my thing for Morikawa is if the win doesn't show that this course can be that.
This is the best.
And he's my pick of the litter. Him and Zalatoris would be my 1-2 of this range if that happens.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe that's bold on Will because
I would take Xander. Them. Yeah, I would take Xander, and for me, just for Will, I had him written down as my betting pick before Hideki, and then I just kind of thought he's just shown us he's basically Ustazen or Koepka, right? That just turns up at these majors, but he's got a little bit more regular form in the the regular events. But he hasn't been exposed to links golf a lot, so I would probably wait and see on him and just go with the proven entity in Xander.
Yeah.
Even at the ownership, it's just
Xander's got a chance to be the most popular guy of the week, coming off a win. And I mean, like you mentioned, open. So, okay. So mine was Burns and Cantlay. Yours is Cantlay and Morikawa. Okay. So if we keep going down, I think this is the easiest way to kind of go through some of the guys. This is where the most odd pricing of the entire week falls in here. And if you go through the higher eights, you have Spieth, you have Hovland, you have Sung Jae Im, you have Joaquin Niemann, you have Tommy Fleetwood, you have Corey Connors, you have Billy Horschel, you have Cameron Young, you have Max Homa. Smack dab in the middle is Ryan Fox. BK, I think he's listening, and here's our first YouTube comment, just going on an absolute rant, how Ryan Fox could be the worst price he's ever seen in his life. And it might be, it's a terrible outright price in theory of like, how is he versus these other guys? I guess I'll open with the question: can Ryan Fox continue doing what he's been doing in this type of field?
Yes.
Okay.
But the thing is, right, and I understand that he's too pricey, which I like because it means people won't play him, and that suits me. So, like, you don't have to go fast, get Neiman or Fleetwood or Connors, which are going to be more appealing. But like on tour tips, when you adjust his like strokes, for current form, based on field strength, he's still 10th best in the field. Like, so it's really, really good, like really solid stuff. So, can it continue? I don't know. I mean, I think the numbers kind of gone on him in terms of betting, but in DFS, I think he's a perfect play.
Yeah, he's kind of in that. People really, there's some sites that are protecting him to be like the highest owned guy out there. Like, just doesn't make any sense to me. I think people would be way scared. I mean, they would never click him over, I mean, Tommy Ladd being $100 cheaper than him. And I think gun to head, I would pick him over Tommy. Like, I
100 times out of 100 at the moment. Like,
yeah, I trust it a lot more. I think he might be a key that people end up, he could definitely drop down. I mean, you just, once again, I guess it's coming with the age of golf that we're at, but you go through these type of guys here and like, I don't think of anybody as like a links horse in this range, or, I mean, horse is probably an absolute stretch, like experienced UK, Scotland, like golf, these guys. I mean, Max Homa tweeted that he's never even been to the country before. You know what I mean? So it's hard for me. And that's similar to what Morikawa, and maybe these guys can figure it out quickly, and they can. They're some of the best golfers, obviously, in the world, but there's definitely a slap in the face that they're going to find at some point. And how quickly can you adjust and figure things out? Is it in between, events to tune up for next week's Open Championship, like Morikawa was able to do, and that's why he's a top 10 golfer in the world? Or do some of these guys just can't figure it out and they're going to struggle these next 2 weeks?
I think that's the thing, right? Because Morikawa did it, everyone thinks that anyone can do it. And like, Morikawa is just a freak athlete that, one, he could do that, but two, he didn't really have to, because the Open just played nothing like an Open. So if he had had to play at St Andrews the week after missing the cut at the Scottish Open, or he didn't miss the cut of the top 60, whatever it was, like, I think he would struggle again. So I think there's a potential concern there that people are putting too much stock into what Morikawa did last year. And, you mentioned Max Homa, and, probably Billy Horschel would be my other one. I'd probably just take them out, because, like, I get that people are going to focus on the fact that Horschel's played well on the DP World Tour in the past, but we're talking about Wentworth, that's a Parkland course, and, in Germany, and it's just not the same thing.
Yeah. So without spending a ton of time, because we don't have any selections in this range from an outright standpoint, correct? No. We go down into the sevens, where I think some of the bigger prices are. So I guess, so we said we're in on Fox. I'm definitely going to play Fox this week. Yeah. I like that opportunity. I would play Spieth. Spieth just feels out of place, and I trust him, of the guys here. And I'm not honestly sure that I would play anybody else in the 8Ks. That's kind of my feeling overall.
I really don't like the range. Like, I think, there's always going to be someone, like, people don't want to play Hovland, people don't want to play Cam Young, so they think it's going to be a bounce back and all this stuff. So they've just not seen it. And, even like Hovland is not done it yet.
Terrible right now.
The Open last year, again, I'll keep saying it, just wasn't an Open. Like I was there, it was ridiculously hot. There was no wind, and there was just nothing. It was just a dome golf. So there's no surprise to see who we saw at the top of the leaderboard. But I think if I had to pick two people, it'd be Fleetwood and Fox. But like that, they would be the people I'd pin my mask to. But the 7K range is great.
Yeah, I think that's where we can spend a lot of time. And let's keep rolling quickly because we have some questions I want to make sure I get back to as we go through. So start us off. You could pretty much say if it is going to play out in the link style, and I guess I didn't pay that much attention to JP McManus, but it's that we're in this neck of the woods. Okay. And who shows up? Who shows up for the first time in a long time, in my opinion? I think he's been, I'm going to say irrelevant. I'm going to say Tyrrell Hatton has been virtually irrelevant for the last 3 months of golf.
He's been awful. And it was concerning, and it took me a long time to really hit here in the end. The first time I saw the price, I just thought I was going to click it. And then I sort of looked back at the form and the ball striker numbers and thought, no, I can't. And then I just thought about it right. And, he's a 2-time Dunhill Links winner. He's a 2-time runner-up. So he could conceivably have won that 4 times. Again, not the same golf course, but that's the one he's going to see next week. 2nd, 4th and 9th in the Scottish Open before it came to this golf course. And in 2 starts here, he's finished 14th and 18th. So, he opened with a 70 on his debut and followed up with 66, 64, 67. And then he opened 69, 67 the next year, like last year, 16th. And then, shot 72 in round 3. I don't really remember what happened there, but then shot Sunday 65. So Hatton just loves links golf. And again, this is where I'm making sure I don't get too caught up myself. Like I've looked back at just like his DP World Tour starts, and like the last 12 of them, he's made 10 cuts, won twice, finished second twice, and had 4 more top 8s. And it's whether you go, as soon as he returns to Europe, he's going to be really comfortable and he's going to enjoy it. And it's in Scotland, that's even better. And balance out the fact that it's actually still a really strong field and you can't really compare those results. So a long way to say that I really like Tyrrell Hatton to play well in Scotland.
Yeah, I agreed. Everything I thought felt really, really good. Not really, really good. I mean, you have to plug your nose a little bit, but then he was bad last week. And that's what scares me.
Yeah,
that's if he went out and even if he finished like T30, we have these guys like Louis tees it up and Fleetwood tees it up, and they're close to the favorites, and they're like backdoor top 10s. Like you don't even sniff them all week, and that's like the type of week you would expect Hatton to have in that thing. So it scares me. But his price, that's if we're thinking. I mean, you bet him out, right? And he has winning upside. And if we think he has winning upside and he's at this price, and you don't even need to win at 7,900 or 7,800, like you just need to probably top 20 this thing to really make some noise and some smaller, GPPs. And it's like, okay, like he can definitely do that. And you just trust him probably as much as anybody when the conditions get up in this type of range.
Yeah, I just think like every time you hear from Tyrrell Hatton, he hates a golf course. Like, I don't think he particularly enjoys America. Like for just whatever, I think he knows it's like somewhere he has to go for his career. But like, I think he just feels a lot more comfortable over here. And this could be completely wrong. We missed the cut last week, and like we're going to talk about a golfer in a minute. We're both on as well. That like what he did last week without his best stuff shows what Hatton should really have done. But like, I'm just going to forgive it just because he's so good in Scotland. Like it's ridiculous how good he is in Scotland. And the last time I felt like this about someone was Danny Willett at the Dunhill Links, and obviously he won. So slightly different attack, but like I just feel like as much as like Willett was miscut, but close, Hatton's been meandering and could all of a sudden just come alive, and I think that's going to happen.
Yep. So that's fair. So he's I think the only one we really need to discuss kind of in that 78, 79. You get Meronk coming back like Fox in the sense. I guess the win is so big for Meronk. Why he's in the Open Championship now. He gets to play. I mean, he just came short of the other majors. Like I almost feel better about Fox 8,500 than I do Meronk 7.7 K. But at 7,600, I think it's the play at the tournament. I think he's definitely going to have some ownership with it, but I mentioned off the top, you go to that 2021 Rye year, like that was outside of being blown out to sea on the Saturday, like Lucas Herbert was the best golfer in that tournament for a clear 54 holes, Thursday, Friday, Sunday. And he shot a million on Saturday. And just, that was him. So then you do that. Then you come back to it last year when he finished fourth here as well. And that comes off a victory the week before. So like the opposite, like his game, the more I look into his numbers, it's like Spieth's and it's like Cam Smith's on, a lesser version with the upside in the short game of it, like that, how often he's able to really deliver on the short game. Just he's going to be creative. He's going to do it. He's going to show here. And I think that's just coming on full display in these type of elements. And maybe it's kind of that Aussie, grow up on those type of course. Min Woo has a little bit of it in him too, except, he's a better driver. But I think Herbert is the bet of the tournament. I think he's the DraftKings play of the week. He was the first number I went to, and that number went from 100 to like 50 very quickly. But I'm, not getting away from Lucas Herbert.
I mean, look, even when Herbert finished 62nd on debut, he opened up 67-66 and was 20th at the halfway stage, and then shot 72-70 over the weekend. That was 2019. Like, Lucas Herbert has definitely developed over the last couple of years. And to your point, like, he shot a million, like he shot 79 in that round of 3, whereas he opens up 66-65 to lead at the halfway stage and bounced back with a 65 again. Like, if he shot 79-72, that's, okay, he's had a bad weekend, but really smashed back on the Sunday. And then last year, started slower, which I think is media obligations, is getting over the win, maybe a bit hungover. 69-68, not with his best stuff, goes and shoots 64 in round 3 to put himself bang in contention again, and finishes with a 66 and does nothing wrong, doesn't move. So I think he's phenomenal. Like, I was wondering if this was the one where I just get too caught up in course form and stuff like that, but it's not. Like, he's just playing well. He's one guy I don't really care how his ball striking numbers are, because that's just not what he does. Like, they're important, obviously, and like, if he's flashing with his irons, you're going to be even more excited. But like, his path to victory is generally that short game, and that suits this test. And Lucas Herbert is a great player, and I don't think people are going to be shocked by that. I don't think we're breaking news here, but like, I think if you've got a really, like, if I can have Hatton, Herbert, and another guy we're going to come on to at 7K flat, like, that opens up a lot of things for me, like, at the top if I want to.
And he's been somebody, I guess, at the Irish, and I had bet him at this event coming in. Like, he's somebody you can taste it coming a little bit. And it just feels like it's, I guess the Bermuda was kind of out of a little bit of nowhere. And that was a really weak field, and conditions were up, winds were there. But I mean, you could tell the Irish was coming. The Dubai Desert Classic was showing some life in advance. So yeah, I just think for me, he's just somebody we can feel it right here, and he can deliver when that time is right. Now, I want to, let's just basically, we'll round out the 7K. So let's fire a little bit quicker as we go here, because 6K is a lot of the questions kind of revolve around it. So is there a standout to you below 7,500?
So I've got a couple. I like Matt Kuchar at 7,400. I think he's playing some steady golf, not his best stuff, but he plays really well in Scotland. He's obviously nearly won an Open Championship, but for some heroics by a tour truck by Jordan Spieth. I think he was 20th here on his debut, I think it was. But before that, he's been 10th, 2nd, and 4th in Scottish Opens in the past as well. So just really solid form for Matt Kuchar, and he's playing decently enough on the PGA Tour to make me think that's okay. And then you come into Howard Song and Johannes Veerman, and both of them I think are just playing good golf at the moment. I think Howard Song, you're going to have to figure out whether he's going to be too emotional after that win. But the thing I like about Howard Song is like that 14th place finish at Dunhill Links last year came after 14 missed weekends, like missed cuts, withdrawals, whatever. And then just finished 14th on the Links Golf. He obviously has a bit of affinity with it. He's now had really back-to-back strong finishes in Germany, including a wire-to-wire win. Like, there's not really a negative. It just depends whether you believe he can kind of compete again after that emotion. But there's been a couple of weeks since, and I think he's worth risking at the 7,200.
Yeah. I find him incredibly interesting. Probably in the first round leader market. I think he's been back-to-back first round leaders last 2 times he's teed it up.
Yeah, I've done
I saw
that.
Mayo. I saw Mayo is back into his favorite drug of choice, which is the first round leaders market. So Haotong is right up there for him on. Oh no, he doesn't even have Haotong as a first round leader. Sad. But Haotong, I guess, because there's a little bit of a wind, right? If I looked. Let's pull up as we get into it. We'll talk.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't when I looked yesterday. It felt like it was really steady. There was a little bit less between about 7 and 10, but it wasn't significant. But that may have changed. I haven't looked.
Yeah, now we're looking at afternoons tomorrow with 20-mile-an-hour gusts and above.
Fantastic.
And in the morning,
so
in the morning, the highest the gust gets to is 15. It's primarily 9 to 12. So there might be a little bit of advantage. I think Pat ended up stacking kind of that side of the first round leader, which makes a lot of sense. For me, if we stay in this range, I think there's 2 overall that Haotong's in the morning too. Okay, perfect. So I think the 2 that make the most sense for me are Jordan Smith. I think Jordan Smith at $7,300. I think he's basically played incredibly similar to Meronk and to Fox all year long. And I think he provides a little bit of, this is tough to say, but like safety. And like, I think he can play the weekend. I think his ball striking is bar none, probably the best on the European tour right now. So he just, if he finds a putter or not, he doesn't need to at $7,300 to really just score and be around. So I think he's one. I think Luke List is the other one. I'm betting Luke List outright. I think if I compare the 2, Smith versus List, I prefer Smith in DFS because of the safety, but the upside of which List presents is very, very high. And we saw that he could have won that Scottish Open in 18. And, the last time out, he finished inside the top 20 in his last event, losing 8 strokes on the green. Like, no one can do that in the world, pretty much, besides Luke List.
Was it 11 strokes he gained in approach nearly, or 10?
Yeah, it was over 10 strokes, his best of his career. And literally, he's losing 8 strokes on the green and finishing inside the top 20. So I think that, plus he kind of has a little bit of that game where you could see it fit in here. So I just think 7,300 for Smith, 7,200 for List, and betting List kind of outright is where I end up going.
I actually prefer List in both. Okay. I think Smith is lulling people a little bit into security. He's the best ball striker at the moment, but he's always been that. Like, it's not news. And when you look at it, he's got 2 missed cuts and 1 made cut here. And when he made the cut, he finished 36. So if you think he's playing better than all of those 3 years combined, then great. But he's never finished inside the top 30 in a Scottish Open.
Yep. All right, we're over 30 minutes in time. Let's go back through some of these questions. I'm going to tweet out again. Let's fire up here. So we're starting to get down the board. We're starting to talk 6K guys. We're starting to talk, a little bit into our DP World Tour guys. So I think the first one we see, Jack Fisher is talking about Matthew Jordan. Do you think Matthew Jordan has a chance at a top 20 this week?
Yeah, 18th on debut last year, 5th in the Dunhill Links in 2019 before he was good, 12th in last year's Irish Open, 24th in this year's. Obviously likes this style of golf. I think if you asked anyone where Matthew Jordan's breakthrough was going to be, it was going to be the links golf. But he's kind of got away from that a little bit. He seems to be playing some different golf courses well. But at 6,200, I think he's fine.
All right, so first one there. So we have Matthew Jordan talk. Why is everyone hot on Haotong Li? We kind of went through that. It looks like Mayo actually is on him in the outright market. So even better. Thinks very highly of Haotong this week. To your point, I think it's a great point talking through 14 missed cuts and kind of showing up literally out of nowhere into that links golf. Yeah, his game, he was Min-Woo Lee before Min-Woo Lee, that was Haotong. So yeah, I definitely think he can have some fun this week. Zach Jeffers talks about Joaquin Lagergren, $6,100. Any thoughts there?
I mean, look, I've got him down as just it's links golf. 4 top fives at Dunhill links, 11th in approach last week, which I think is key. Like, he's not a guy that you ever seem to rely on. He does a lot with kind of short game, and you never know when he's going to get hot with those irons. But his only wins come by the coast at Sicilian Open. He's 2 for 3 for made cuts on this golf course, and that Dunhill links pedigree suggests that he should make the cut based on current form. So I think he's actually worded it how much Lagergren is too much Lagergren at 6,100. Don't rely on 6,100 guys, but he's good.
Yep. I think there's another golfer, I think $100 cheaper that we could talk through as we go back through. Our man Axis is hanging out, giving us a Guido shout out. That second round last week literally killed me. Like, that was some of the worst professional golf I've ever seen. So excited. And I mean, he was like 14 over before I even rolled out of bed. Like, Tom, I just can't, my heart, it just hurts, man. And you know what's going to happen? He's probably going to show up either this week or next week, like with a top 20. Like, it's just without a doubt. It's just the way it is. So
it won't
I just
be
don't
this
know what
week.
to do anymore. I just don't know what to do anymore.
He'll probably just do it like next week, like he's done at the US Open and last year as well. But I mean, if you'd have put him out this week, I would have probably arranged an official intervention instead of the ones I tried to do through Zoom. So as much as I love the Guido shout, it's a dangerous game at the moment.
Seb Max talked about the last time we did a live chat, Andrea Pavan had came up, so that would have been first event of the year. No Pavan for no interest. I mean, I'm rooting for Pavan. I want to see kind of that comeback. He said compared it to Haotong resurgence definitely can be that same again. High Fades mentions he said hard not to back Herbert this week or Robert MacIntyre. We haven't talked about yet. Thoughts on our boy from Oman?
Nonplussed. I think basically I'm always a little bit down on Robert MacIntyre, and it doesn't really change. I think he's a guy that the one thing I would say about MacIntyre, and I said this on the podcast, was like, instead of the home open being a pressure field for him and kind of get to him, I think he actually relishes it because he just likes being at home. He's gone to America and been basically trash, aside from the majors, obviously. But even when he's been he's miscut 14th, 18th here, and started really slow on that second week and didn't really get anywhere last year. So if he wasn't popular in DraftKings, I'd say put him in some lineups because I think a top 15, top 20 is definitely within the realms of possibilities. But I don't see winning upside for MacIntyre at the moment.
I've just been kind of just disappointed with him not taking it to the next level. That's I think it's hard. It's really hard to do that with guys you really like.
Do you think he's just been given too lofty expectations? Is he just ever going to be that good? Does he have that potential? I don't know.
Well, I think we think of Scotland of what the huge golf capital it can really encapsulate and be so popular, and being the best Scottish golfer, that just elevates it, I think, to a different level. But there's
no competition though, is there? It's really it's really tough. It sounds a bit harsh on the Richie Ramseys and the David Laws and Ewan Fergusons, but that doesn't if he was the best English golfer, you'd be saying, okay, well he's going to be a major contender. But to me, I feel like there's always been this. It's a British thing. As soon as someone's good, we kind of force them into the spotlight and think they're going to be amazing. And because the commentary talks about him, because we see him a lot making putts when he's out of it, stuff like that. He's left-handed. Everyone loves the fact. It's not for me.
It sucks because I like Bob. I like Bob a lot. Overall, and
he's very likable, isn't he?
It'd be it's the same way I feel about Tommy. I think that's a very similar comparison. As we want them to be so much better, and they're great golfers. But there's a huge the phenom. It's just there needs to be a next step, and Bob's clearly the third of that ladder in my opinion. But he gets priced in similar with those other guys. So okay, so past Bob here, Ocean Ghost talking about any interest in Matthew Neesmith or Callum Tarrant. I hadn't really came across if you told me Matthew Neesmith was in the field, I
knew he was playing, but
that.
I didn't look any more into Matthew Neesmith. So while you're doing that, I'll pick up the Callum Tarrant thing, which I actually think is really impressive. So he's 34th first at the US Open, where he was second after round one. Missed the cut of the Travellers, but he was actually 15th after round one. He shot 67, and he only shot 72 in round two. It's not like he was disastrous. He just missed the cut because the scoring got away. Then he finishes sixth at the John Deere. My concern with him a little bit is like people are going to look at the fact that there's like an English flag next to him. They're going to think he can probably play links golf a little bit, and I'm sure he can. But like since he's turned pro, he's been in China, Corn Ferry, and PGA Tour. He hasn't been, playing Challenge Tour golf or anything like that. So I tried to kind of look at like TPC Colorado. It kind of looks a little bit like there's no links element to it, but like just that aesthetically, it looks like it could, suit his eye a little bit, and he was third there. Clearwater Bay Open, I don't know if there was any win there, but it sounds like he might have been in China. So these are really grasping at straws. But like when you look at it, like the two last made cuts, he was top 16 in tee to green and 9th and 26th in approach. So I really do think Callum Tarren's a good player at 6,300.
Yeah, I think $6,300 is very fair. Matthew Neesmith has not missed a cut since April 3rd in Valero Texas Open. Some consistency there. I mean, had a third at the Valspar just before that. Hasn't really had the upside. I think in this range, and maybe it's just a form of habit, but I like the experience. I like guys that are guys. I like them in the 6K range more than probably PGA Tour guys that haven't experienced this type of golf. I think like a Matt Kuchar that you brought up in the sevens, I think is very interesting because he has that type of experience. It's a different game. Some of these guys, as you rip through, like you could talk through a lot, and it's just, it doesn't click with me the same way as our international players that would.
It's one of those, like, if he finished high up the leaderboard, you'd go, well, it's because he's not missed a cut since April. But if he's 6,900 and there's a guy that I'm on outright at that same price. So, Victor Perez. So there's no way that I'm going to go to Matthew Neesmith over him, even if ownership dictates I should. So, that kind of range there for me, there's actually two guys at 6,700 I think are worth talking about as well. So no to Neesmith for me.
Okay. Yep. So next question was Matthew Pavon or Dean Burmester. You mentioned Victor Perez for you at 6,900. I don't know what Pavon price is 6,300, but Burmester is side by side with Victor Perez. So I think Perez would be the pick of the litter for you there. I don't know what to think of Perez this week.
Pavon's interesting because he's played the Scottish Open 5 times, missed one cut, but he's also got a third and a 12th. And the 12th obviously come last year on his golf course. So Pavon is pretty interesting. At the start of the year, he was looking like he was going to break through and never really did. And that would be my concern in terms of upside. But like Burmester, I'm a little bit cold on now. Not really that bothered about him. Perez is just boom. I don't know that he's the safest play in DFS, but just in boom or bust type. I mean, he was 125 to 1 when I bet him. Winner of the Dunhill Links and lives in Dundee, which is really strange. I don't know anyone that chooses to live in Dundee. I've been there before, not great. But he's 3 for 3 for made cuts here, 28th, 14th, 59th. And when he was 59th, he was 8th after 54 holes as well. And I think that's really telling. Like if Victor Perez was 8th after 54 holes this year versus last year, now he's not in the kind of midst of what he was doing last year, a lot of Ryder Cup in his mind and things like that. I think he could benefit from that. So I really like Perez from an outright, but there's guys at 6,700 that I think might be a bit more solid for DFS.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Dutch Rock talked about the PM AM being favored potentially. I think the more I learn about the elements in your guys' neck of the woods, like you could go to bed tonight and it could be completely different by the time you wake up tomorrow. So I think it sets itself up to, if you're building a good amount of lineups, like it's fair to stack even both sides of the wave. Like you just don't know which way. In the Open Championship next week, like they all go out one after another, and it's so it's just where you could just maybe stack pods. But yeah, I don't know exactly. The wind has changed right now. I thought it looked AM PM tomorrow.
I try not to get too involved in that because, like, we saw it like the Players' Championship this year. Like, you take a side and then there's a weather delay, and you're not going to get weather delay in Scotland. But like, yeah, it's just not for me. Like you say, I could wake up. I mean, this brilliant sunshine right now. In 30 minutes' time, it could be tipping it down. So I'm not going to try and guess that. I would be doing people a disservice if I thought I knew what I was talking about. That.
Yeah, fair. So keep going through thoughts on Aaron Rai. let's we got to pick up the pace a little bit because we want to talk Barbasol too.
Aaron Wright, not fast. I think that it would be a lot better for him if it was tough, and it doesn't appear to be that way. Seems to have changed his tune a little bit on the PGA Tour in terms of where we thought he was going to play well, but last week he was in the top 10, but 3 straight rounds of 70 suggests he needed it to be tougher.
Yeah, I like the DraftKings price in Aaron Wright. $7,400 feels very fair to me. I think if I'm ranking Fox, Meronk, and Rye, even though they're thousands of dollars difference in some ways, I would play Fox to be my favorite play, all things considered. Then it'll be Rye next. I'd probably skipping Meronk. Fox top 5. I don't think betting Fox is the way I'd want to attack him this week at those numbers, but I think DraftKings does make sense. I'm going to save Johnny Newman's question here. Favorite plays below 6K because we can rip through here. Thomas Avery, Alexander Bjork. Haven't seen his name too often this week. Thoughts?
So he was one of the 2 players at 6,700. So I'll go into both of them. Alexander Bjork, cool. I have tipped for first round leader. Just feels like, he's 5 for 5 for make-ups to this event. He opened up on this course for 63 in 2020. And he betted by Lee Westwood, and then round 3 last year shot the same number. He's shown pretty good form in links golf in general over the years, and even when he was 62nd on debut, opened with a 66, so he can just start fast, which is obviously what you need. He's in that kind of 8:45 tee time, playing with Grant Forrest and Keegan Bradley. So yeah, I think he's a decent play.
All right, there's the Bjork case. BK asks, what do you guys think of Padraig Harrington? I like Patty Harrington this week. He comes off of Champions Tour Major recently, and then he plays last week, finished 30th at the Irish. It just, I feel there's some safety. I mean, 6,700 right there, with Bjork. I think I trust him enough to make the weekend. I like him again next week. He just feels one of these golfers that, he top 10 to Major, top 5 to Major last year. Just gets better with age, and somebody you trust if the conditions really get up. If I had to really pick my preference at $6,700 though, because I think we can go through. So that was the last question. I think Padraig is fine and in play, but I think the biggest misprice of anybody in 6Ks is Brandon Grace at 6,700. Like it's Tambo talked about it this morning show. It's like the perfect combination. No one wants to play a live golfer. No one pays attention that he wasn't in the lawsuit or the claim. He's just the added name to the bunch. He won last week, and like it's a terrible price versus his odds. Like I think great, and so he's not going to be owned because no one spent all week talking up why is this guy $6,700? Is there a letdown after winning $4 million? Was it a really big deal for Brandon Grace? I think it was, but man, like when this was like where you played Brandon Grace back in the day. Like this is what you geared up to play him at $6,700. I feel like he, along with Herbert, Grace just feels like a phenomenal play.
Yeah, I mean, he's missed cut on 50th, I think, on this golf, 52nd on this golf course, but he's won the Dunhill Links in 2012, Pete Torbjorn, lost in a playoff at this event in 2013 to Phil Mickelson. So not a bad kind of CV for this event. Open Championship was pretty solid for most of his career, 36th, 20th, 6th. I think the price is really cheap. I actually prefer Adrian Meronk at 6,700. I just don't know what to do with these. I don't know how. I still haven't worked out how to decide what that live golf form means. And I think these guys are now the real. I think the first step was getting into the tour. Then I think the next step was taking all the heat, and the next step was Portland happening and all the bigger names getting added to the field. All of a sudden, you can sort of say, well, okay, Grace has played well in both of those events, and that suggests that he's in good form, and he bounced back from a 76 at the US Open to shoot a 69 in round 2. He wasn't going to have to make the cut. But I like Grace, but I thought Alan House was just monkey off his back with that first win. 26th here on debut, and he was 6th after 54 holes, despite opening with a 75. And then last year he finished 75th, but he was 23rd at the halfway stage. So I think Alan House is sneakily pretty good here. I think it benefits him that he hasn't got to be too accurate off the tee. Was it the PGA Championship where he flashed? It was the PGA at the US Open, wasn't it? So he's shown that he can, play good stuff in stronger fields. So, I like Adrian Meronk. I don't hate Brandon Grace. I think actually 6,700 is a really, really interesting range. You've got Kitayama in there. You've got Lahiri in there. You've got Rosner just below at 6,600. So I think there's some really intriguing plays there.
Yeah, the one, if I'm going to keep going down, I think we've answered all the questions that were in there, and then keep them coming. We'll kind of round out thoughts here. I have actually three that haven't been talked on, all three that I've bet. And again, it's just, you're getting down in this range. You can make cases for a lot of these guys. I mean, these guys are I mean, you mentioned Arnas there. I mean, we've talked about Smith at 7,300, I mean, those guys are like 28, 22, 25. Like if you're on like a really stronger week, maybe you get them like 40s. Like, these are the pick of the litter on the DP World Tour. And those type of guys did compete at these events in the past. So I think they're very much definitely in play. I think, but also what we've seen is guys can stretch form into, like, if every week we show up and we're looking at some of these guys that get in form, they can keep it going and run a hot stretch for a couple of weeks. And that's kind of what John Catlin has started to do. I think he's 6,700 or maybe 66. He's 6,600 this week. I mean, Catlin won the Irish. He's just a golfer that, like, elements get up. I think he's a really, really good golfer. I think you could put him in like a thick of a really like strong field tournament. And he's one of those guys that, in my opinion, like, isn't scared on Sunday. He's not scared against the best golfers in the world. He's cut his teeth having to win his whole way to get where he is. And shown flashes last week, obviously, really, really good irons. He's been leading up into his form. So I like him. I think he can compete. I think you can get good top 10, good top 20 number on him. Catlin's 1,600. If I keep moving down, I think very much similar mold. He doesn't play on the DP World Tour because he plays on the Japanese Golf Tour. But I think Joo-Hyung Kim, his game is more set up for links golf than maybe it's gotten credit for. He's really good from a short game perspective. His around the green and putter put it on display at the Country Club. He was really good in the US Open, kind of found himself in the mix there a little bit. Strong form. And it's, again, we're getting into the same type of thing where we do this every week kind of on the DP World Tour, like, where you just don't know where to price these guys. You don't know what to do when they get in these type of fields. And that's what we're kind of doing when you get them in the 6Ks. You can get them at 400 to 1 and 11 to 1 for a top 20 and $6,400. I think Joo-Hyung is a really, really strong play. I think I trust him probably, as much as any of these guys. I think his talent's world class. And then the last one is probably as speculative as it gets. And that's Sami Välimäki. Sami Välimäki is as long as 600 to 1. He's got a top 20. I think 16 to 1 is the best one for him. He's $6,200 this week. I just think Välimäki's game at its best, like, he was a world-class putter. Like he like, I mean, you thought about him in Oman, like, I mean, he sank that long putt to win, but like his short game is very, very good. It's just, can you match that with a good iron week? He flashed his best irons he has at the season. He was 30th last week, 4th the week before. A ounce of life. And most people come pouncing on Välimäki. If this was a European Tour event, people would be betting Välimäki. I can promise you that. Back-to-back weeks. Maybe people were last week, and maybe I just let myself go another week. But I think Sami Välimäki, he's another one. If I put those three side by side, they are guys that I like trust. Like, I almost feel worse about some of the, like Jordan Smith when he's T5 on a Sunday afternoon than I would of backing Välimäki and Catlin and Joo-Hyung. Like, I think they are gritty and they can show it off in that type of example. So I really like those three. That was a long-winded answer when I said we got to go quick, but I had to make the case for my three bets.
So I think Pat has it the best when he calls him Wacky Välimäki. I think he's right. I sort of, when you put it in the group chat that he was the guy this week, I sort of said this should come with a Guido warning because we just don't know what to think of him. But just a couple of, quickly to rattle through a couple of other guys. Someone asked us about Matthew Southgate earlier.
Yes, he was another one. 6K
flat. Miscut 9th, 26th on this golf course, 16th last week, 15th 2 starts going to Sweden, and 34th week before that. So there was no form leading into this. I'd be concerned, but this guy basically makes a career out of links golf. His best finishes are second at Dunhill Links, 2nd and 4th for the Irish, 6th for the Open, 9th here, and 2nd at Scottish Hydro. So he's fine. Brandon Stone, 6,500, winner of this event in the past, 3 for 3 May cuts on this golf course, shot off Friday 64th on debut here, so 11th after 36 holes. Current form, 5th, 15th and 46th the last 3 events. don't know about Brandon Stone. High upside, I think, is the thing I would say about Stone. Calais Samoya, recent winner, European Open, 9th here in the past. Best golf has been in Qatar and Dubai, which has always been linked to kind of links players in the past as well. So he's an interesting one there. But I think that kind of, I really like the Catlin call. I've warmed to him a lot over the last couple of days. I think he's a really good player and just someone that is kind of tailor-made to perform highly in this kind of event, even though he hasn't done it yet.
Yep. Okay, so so Brian came in and he asked about Ju Hyun Kim. You heard it at the perfect time. That's awesome. Haynes 16 is asking our 6 favorites. So I will review our betting cards here in just a second. Final question, Thomas Avery is asking about Brian Harman's game travel over here. Harman's kind of got that cooch in him a little bit. But
he would get blown over by the wind, though. He's tiny, isn't he?
Yeah, like Al Torres did in that time he got hurt last year.
Yeah, but he's just, it's surprising how small he actually is, Brian Harman. I can never quite get over it. He's never played in this, so I don't know. I really don't know. He's one of those guys that I don't know what to expect. You feel like he should be good because he's kind of shown up in tough tests and he could probably get hot with a short game, but I don't have a strong enough take. He's played Opens before. I think he was 26th on debut, but then missed a load of cuts, and he was 19th last year, which, again, I'd favour the 26th in 2014 over what he'd done last year. So do with that what you will. He missed 4 cuts in, tougher Open Championships, and 2 of them come in Scotland. Yep,
very fair. Okay, so we're going to put a bow on the Scottish Open. Betting card, Tom, can you rip through yours?
Yeah, Hideki Matsuyama at 33 to 1. Tyrrell Hatton, I think he's about 50 to 1. Lucas Herbert, similar price. Victor Perez was like 125. He's dropped down a lot now. And Johannes Veerman, I think, still about 175 to 1. He is speculative. I think he's more top 10, top 20, whereas I think all the others have winning upside.
All right. So for me, let's go through the top and best odds here. So I have Cameron Smith. Best odds that we had available were 30 to 1 for Cameron Smith. Hideki Matsuyama, 34 to 1. Lucas Herbert, 55 to 1. I think you can top 5 with all of those guys. Now we start getting a little bit deeper. Luke List, 125 to 1. I think you top 5, top 10 with Luke List there. And then John Catlin, Ju Hyun Kim, Sammy Valimaki. I think you can ladder that down. T20 all the way through the outright. Catlin's longest number is 250. Ju Hyun Kim's 400. Sammy Valimaki, 600 to 1. I just think these guys got the grit in them. Hopefully we can find one of them getting there. I mean, you can pay back a lot, even if one of these favorites win. I mean, the favorites were all around the leaderboard last year, but you can still cash out and make a big week with some of these places. So, quick go back. Okay, so we're going to round up Scottish Open. So I want us, it's 3:30. We spent about an hour. Maybe we go 15 minutes on the Barbasol. So I think we can just kind of preview this from guys that we're intrigued on. So is there anybody, I guess, just start off kind of your overall thoughts on the week.
Okay, so overall thoughts of the week is that there's going to be a guy from, PGA Tour regular just win it. Mark Hubbard is the guy that I've kind of pinned my master, and Patrick Flavin and Michael Kim as well. Michael Kim's Corn Ferry Tour form, I think, will translate to this very nicely. But the one guy that I feel really quite strongly about from a DP World Tour perspective would be Marcel Schneider. He's just been electric. We've spoken every week, Sky, about we're just going to keep backing him until he, doesn't do it. And 7th, 4th, 5th, miscut 15th, 20th. Like, it's not stopping. The train is not stopping for Marcel Schneider. I don't necessarily think he's going to struggle at the Barbasol Championship. And when you look at the guys, again, kind of adjusted scoring on tour tips, like he's 16th in the field, which is the highest of, I'm pretty sure the highest of anyone from the DP World Tour before you start getting into, the Dale Whitnells and people like that who I actually think has got a good chance as well. But Marcel Schneider for me would be a standout DP World Tour selection for this.
Yeah. So first off, love to see you on Patrick Flavin. I'm there with you. Going to keep riding that train. He's one of my good high school buddies. Went to college with him, so that's kind of like brought that original interest. And he was out there all week with him at the John Deere and talked about how special it was being able to kind of live through. I mean, for him, I mean, that's a life-changing moment. He was on Monday Q's podcast talking through for that. And now it's just a free roll. You free roll that into a week like this, which is really fun. So I think he's he's there. I'm with you on Schneider. Really like betting him at this, and for the same exact reasons you went through. I think just continue betting him and the opportunity. And this field is not the major. You just forgot about the major. Like, this is a ripe opportunity for that. And I think the one that, if I'm making one selection for the week, and he's just been a golfer like you haven't been able to really nail. It feels like if you told me Matty Schmid hadn't had a inside top 30 finish since March, I wouldn't believe you, because he finds him ways like up onto the leaderboard. Maybe it is through these 9-hole, maybe it's through kind of showing life here and there. He just doesn't string together multiple rounds, but he has felt like he's been in the hunt of things a little bit more than what his record shows. But he's also somebody that I wouldn't be surprised could absolutely pop. I mean, what he made the cut at the Open Championship last year, after pretty much just making his pro debut, and what I really like think about in this moment is Schmid is returning to where he went to school. He went to Louisville University. He's back in Kentucky. If any of these guys have familiarity, and there's PGA Tour guys that are from the area or not, but like you pair Schmid's amateur history, he was really good at Louisville, and you see his flashes so far on the DP World Tour, and you get this opportunity in your home area, and it's just like, okay, like it is just such a chance for the taking. 100-1 for him. I think if I'm placing one only bet, he's the one, and that's obviously the DP World Tour guys for sure. But I like Schneider and him 1-2 for the DP World.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's another one. It felt like we all got really excited about, and it didn't happen. But 30th again last week, and when you sort of take a macro view on him, like that, there's been some better stuff. So yeah, I mean, you're never going to sort of get opposition from me about a triple-digit golfer on this kind of field. It's basically just who you like, right? Well, that Norgard Muller, who frustratingly never has the O in his name on the odds comparison website.
You have to it's his name. Valimaki's even like sometimes, but yeah, I don't know.
I think just because I just see him as this mold of like, I could see him being a good Corn Ferry type player who hits it a long way, and
Okay, I got a question.
Streaky.
Okay, who's better, Norgard Muller or Vincent Norman?
I think Norman's got a higher upside.
Okay, but because I think that if you compared to what simultaneous careers that
who he's going to be. Yeah.
What is your also, if it will be a shame. I pray he makes it, because I think him on the PGA Tour. I just got last time I checked, it's unbelievable that he hasn't won yet this year. Vincent Norman on the Corn Ferry Tour. I'm going on a complete tangent, but he is like literally like top 5 in driving distance. He's top 5 in like driving accuracy. He's top 5 in greens and regulation. Literally, so he's number 1 in greens and regulation. And then if you go over to total driving is a stat where they show both of them, right? So he's ranked 16th in distance. He's ranked 13th in accuracy. So that adds up to 29th of a combined ranking. The next closest person is 42nd. Like, he does everything from a ball striking standpoint. So people are going to like drool when he makes PGA Tour. But Norgard Muller is that kind of similar vibe of hits the absolute crap out of the ball, but does he have any other part of the game that could find it this week?
Actually, a bit of a travesty that Norman's not in this field. I'm guessing that's not by choice.
But he's on Corn Ferry.
Yeah, but I mean, what does Matt Harris and Omar Aresti? Why are they in the field?
Yeah, I mean,
Kevin Stadler, John Merritt. I know it's a different argument altogether, but that's the whole
problem with what's happening on the tour. I think that's a root of an issue.
But these are massive own goals. This is a guy that we, like you've just spoken about, this is a guy we're excited to see on the PGA Tour next year. And you could give him some airtime. You could prep him and get people excited about him for the PGA Tour. Because if there was a Corn Ferry Tour event, I don't think he's allowed to play in this. But there isn't one, right? There's not one this week.
Yeah, I mean, we could spend hours going through, because I think this field deserves a whole rehaul on it, but it's opportunities for a DP World. It's a step in the right directions with the DP Tour guys.
One guy I would say is that Whitnall is playing really, really solidly, Dale Whitnall at the moment, and he's got a base in America, and I think that's a bonus. Like I'm pretty sure he's based near you, Sky, in Florida, so it's not like it's anything to do with Kentucky, but I just think guys that are used to traveling back and forth from Europe to America could be in a better position, and he's just solid. Like he's just really he's hitting the ball well. He's doing a lot of good things, and it's not quite clicking for him. I think he preferred to be in the Scottish Open field right now, but I think he could take a chance here because they all get PJ. They get PJ Tour cards, right?
Yeah. I mean, literally, this is a life-changing. I mean, we'll have to spend more time after we get to the Open talking about the changes in which they announced because we haven't spoken since then. And
that's the whole podcast itself, isn't it?
Yeah, very, very big changes, which are for the better. I'm going to go reverse. You kind of said Dale Whitnall lives here or has the Florida home. I'm also betting this doesn't classify as DP World Tour, but David Skins this week. David Skins is from England.
He is,
but he lives obviously in the States, plays on the PGA Tour. Skins was lights out Friday at the John Deere. What's hilarious is I was talking to my buddy who was at the event. He said Skins snapped his driver on Thursday. He was so pissed, and he played with Paul Bargnon's backup driver on Friday, and I think it was the best round of the season for him. Like he was very, very good. Flavin played with, if you look, it was like literally the round of the day on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. He basically played with all these guys. Bo Hoke put together round of the day while he was playing with them too. But Skins, interest there. I'm really excited for Gotterup. I hope Gotterup wins. If I had to if you had to pick, I mean, I want him in the Open. I want him. I really was hoping he would get in the Open Championship with the top 3 finish. I want Gotterup to continue. It's good to stick with him and get rewarded like last week was on a big number and him playing well. Excited for him. I bet Buckley. I like Buckley. I just think number there. You could bet anybody in this.
Yeah, I think Buckley. I think Lee Hodges is playing better. I think what you've got to do, and this is where the site that I use comes in, like how they adjust the scores for their finishes is really important. So. Chesson Hadley's obviously got 5th and 10th place finishes, so he's the best in the field. Interestingly, I think he's basically beyond done as a golfer, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention him. Aaron Baddeley was 4th last week with his irons.
Did see that on Tour Tips. They make it pop very well. Yeah,
and
he was tailor-made for these.
This used to be his jam, but
yeah.
It's been years since. Wasn't Dylan Wu number 1 with his irons last week?
Dylan Wu was number 1 with his irons last week.
So there's 2 guys. In terms, if you just like the recent form of iron play, they're there. But
I like somebody who in that same mold. Fabian Gomez he popped on a couple of days, and he's also had a good little run on the Corn Ferry Tour. Finished 3rd at the Maine Open. He finished 15th 2 weeks prior to that. He had really good irons last week, so he's 125 to 1. Dylan Wu, I think, definitely kind of has that same kind of shot. Because we normally when we get these fields before the Scottish Open week was going on, you'd get Dietrich and Corrales. You would get Højgaard at some of these type of events. We don't have those guys in this event, so it's hard because it's not guys we've been betting on the deep. I mean, I guess
Snyder would be the one
falling off. A little bit more. You mentioned Snyder and Schmidt. I think I like a lot. Yannick, I think it's a good opportunity for him. Nemec has shown some life. I mean, Kofstad just came off his week of the year so far, 7,200. But these are the same prices. I think Tario Bond at $7,100 is in play. He's shown really good irons 2 out of the last 3 weeks. But these guys just aren't guys that we really had been paying much attention to week in and week out, outside of them maybe popping for a week and we being on the following.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Jeremy Paul was in the field as well, I think they could have sort of helped each other out. I mean, he's playing really well on the Corn Ferry Tour right now as well. So he'll be looking at Yannick thinking that probably should just be me in the field as well. If they were playing both together, I think that they could have pushed each other on. But it's going to be interesting to see because I think Yannick is he the better player at the 2, generally speaking? And he looked to be, and then now Jeremy's playing really well on the Corn Ferry, so that would be a really interesting thing to see. You mentioned Muller and And Norman, could Muller replicate what Norman's doing? I don't quite think so, but I think Yannick could replicate what Jeremy's doing. So Yannick Paul would be of interest to me.
Okay. Yeah. I think, it's just not a whole bunch of guys. Jacob Bridgman, the stud out of Clemson, is in the field. I like him too. It's just, it's not the guys. If I dreamed up, but I guess what I dream up is the Scottish Open minus 9 of the top 10 players in the world playing, like that's why it gets a little bit difficult, but we get the opportunities, and we went through, the 7 and 6Ks for us. We got one more question. Johnny Newman, bringing it back to the Scottish Open, said, who would be the one Euro player you're hearing being talked up that you wouldn't want to play? I think we would both agree Robert MacIntyre is that player for us. So go through your Barbasol betting card.
Yes, my Barbasol betting card is, Mark Hubbard is there for me. Patrick Flavin with you. Michael Kim, just, didn't really elaborate on him, but just playing.
He's like the Fabian Gomez type. But I guess it's just all been Corn Ferry. He's playing very well in the Corn Ferry.
And like, he's won on the PJ Tour before. And then Marshall Schneider for me rounds out the card.
Cool. I'm Hayden Buckley, 40-1. Marcel Snyder with you, 70-1. Matty Schmid, 100-1. Fabian Gomez, 125-1. Patrick Flavin, 130. And then, like I said, David Skins, long shot, 270-1. Scan one more time for questions. We answered Johnny's. I think
there was a question about par 71 or 72, and I purposely didn't answer it because was there a change of hole from 5 to 4? Was it like the 4th hole or something that's changed, and no one's put up? No one's.
I don't know the answer to.
So it's 71 is what it's listed as, but I'm pretty sure a par 5 has changed to a par 4 somewhere along the way, and it hasn't been recognised. So that might be why it's being asked. But to my knowledge, it's a par 71.
Okay, cool. One last. I mean, we had a decent amount of people watching live all the way through. We appreciate you guys doing that. We'll be back Open Championship next week. Figure out if you guys liked this style. I'm not saying we're going to go live again next week, but if this is the preference of how you'd prefer us to talk through the field for the Open Championship, for these bigger events where we're not just betting the card and talking through everybody, when you really want to focus in on a specific topic, and that is low owned.
I think it helps. Sorry to cut you off there, but I think it helps. Like in my head before we came on was like, let's go through the salaries so we can kind of have a structure. And the fact that people interject and say 7K, 6K, like me and you could talk for hours about every single range, and we try not to do that on purpose, but like it does help when people are asking us questions, because otherwise we're just going to talk about the guys that we do like, and that's it, right? Whereas sometimes we get the opportunity to say who we don't like, and it does become a lot longer form, and our producer there is probably very tired, but like it's I enjoy it this way. I really enjoyed the questions, really enjoyed people tuning in, so to not cut you off there too much, but that would be my view on that.
Yep. I think that's very fair. We can kind of put our heads together how we prepare for next week. But I think that can close us out on an awesome live edition, our second ever one for the Scottish Open. Wish everyone the best of luck this week. Lock is, I believe, 2:15 a.m. Eastern time. So 2:15. So if you're somebody who's a night owl, you'll probably be awake for it. Me, I will be deep in some REM sleep. So my ownership tweet will not be coming on the nose at 2:15 unless I have to pee in the middle of the night.
Pull yourself committed.
I mean, the next 2 weeks, it's just I'm a sleeper, man. You gotta. Maybe I go to bed. Maybe I go to bed at like 8:30 and just wake up.
I think that's a good thing, Sky. I don't think you should be apologizing for that. I think that's normal human stuff. So get your REM sleep in. Even some deep sleep would be great. If you've got a Whoop on, then keep track of that.
There we go. Well, good luck to everybody down. Hopefully you can take down some of those GPPs with our low owned DP World Tour players. If you have any more questions, hit us up on Twitter in advance. But that'll